it's called now. The more those rise, the better it is for everyone. It's just how it is. It's like if there's only improvs and then you get banned from the improvs, you're fucked.
But if you got funny bones, if you got some theaters, if you got these, yeah.
It's exactly like that. You know, I've seen that happen before with people.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen with comedy clubs, and I've seen that happen with fighting too. You get banned from a big organization, and then you're fucked, man. Nobody's like. It's not a monopoly in that you do have choices, but there's one clear top of the food chain choice. But it's because they do it the best. They're also the only ones that are having fights during this quarantine. The only people that are putting on any live sporting events.
It's amazing.
But they're also a part of a company in WME that's hurting
and needs it.
Really bad. So there's not a lot of money to throw around. Like to keep the doors open, to keep people employed. A lot of money is missing, right? All these shows got canceled.
Yeah.
There's all these audience members that aren't going to be there buying tickets, and so it's tricky, man. So this is why I think they're complaining about fighter pay. I think they should get paid more.
Right.
I think everybody should get paid more. I'm thinking it's a crazy way to make a living. I think you should get the most amount of money you can possibly get.
Yep.
But it's also a business. And I think that if they are struggling as much as I think they are, I don't talk finances with them, but I know that WME, people who own it, they're hurting.
Yeah.
Bad. They're laying people off.
Yeah.
Most businesses are hurting. And all the entertainment business is fucked. Live Nation's fucked.
Yeah.
Right? All these people are fucked.
Yeah, big time.
So what do? That's what I think. But, you know, when it comes to me as a human that likes fighting, I know how fucking dangerous that shit is. You should get paid an incredibly generous amount of money to step into a cage fight for millions of people to see.
Yeah, it is interesting because you have this situation where like the quality of the fights is undeniably better because it's not in the free market. You have people that are really good at picking out fights. And for the most part, I say this as a boxing fan, right? So I grew up in boxing where there are tons of different divisions or tons of different companies, if you will, WBC, WBO, all these different promoters.
Together.
And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, right? But like it's a mess. And then sometimes what happens is you have guys who are like really boring fighters, but they get a position where they have the belt, and then it actually hurts the sport in a way. But they earned it and they deserve it. So as like a sportsman, I'm like, they deserve to have it. Like a lot of people, I love Floyd Mayweather. I think he's the best fighter in the history of fighting, right? I think he's actually one of the greatest people at their job ever. Like I think he's Michael Jordan of boxing.
He's without a doubt, one of the greatest boxers, if not the greatest boxer that has ever lived.
He's unbelievable.
50-0.
But he, for average people, fought. For me, I loved it, but for average people, thought it was boring, so he needed the antics.
Yeah, he needed to get people angry at him.
Yeah, the gimmick, right? And it worked. But the thing is with the UFC is I'll watch guys I don't fucking know, and I'll enjoy it. And I feel like I don't know if that's just because of the sport, but also because of the way that they're matching the fighters. And it's not specifically, hey, you're ranked here, we have to match you. Part of it is, you're ranked here, but also your styles would make something interesting. So I wonder if it's...
You're correct. No.
Do you think it's better to not be completely free market? Do you think it's better to have the fights for the quality of the sport?
If you're a fan, it's certainly better for you if the fighters if they all get together in one organization and then that organization makes them fight each other. That way there's not as many dream matchups you never get to see.
Right.
Like one of the things that everybody got upset was by the time Floyd fought Manny Pacquiao, it was like past Manny's prime and Manny had a bum shoulder and all these different things.
Yeah.
We would have liked to see that fight 5 years earlier.
And in the UFC...
that fight gets made.
Easily.
Yeah, it gets made. But it gets to a situation where a guy like John Jones says, hey, I've got a contract for light heavyweight fights, but you know, what do you want to give me to fight Francis Ngannou? Because I want a lot of fucking money because that guy's terrifying.
Yeah.
And they say, well, you get what you're paid in your contract. That's what you get. And he's like, well, I'm not fighting then. And they go, okay.
It is interesting.
See, that's one of those situations where I don't know who's right or who's wrong because I don't know how much money they would make for that. If there's no audience, let's say the Francis Ngannou fight's a big fight and it gets like 500,000 pay-per-views, 600, 700,000 pay-per-views. That's a lot of pay-per-views.
Yep.
But
a live gate?
How much in the hole are they? How much money How much money in the hole are they? Right? How much? How hard is it to make money right now? How much can you afford? How much do they make? I don't know these answers.
Yeah.
How much do they make for a pay-per-view where 700,000 buys, 1 million buys? How much do they make? How much? What's the overhead?
I mean,
I don't know.
it's less, but it's not. I mean, it has to be less because you're not maintaining these venues. The venues are much smaller. You have to pay way less people. That being said, the ticket prices, like the live gate,
Live Gate's big.
20,000
Millions.
people, 18,000 people, all spending on average $150 a ticket.
And on top of that, there's merch. There's all sorts of shit. There's, I'm sure they probably get some sort of a
Food and
piece
bev,
of all that stuff. Yeah, so there's a lot of money. And then there's also, they had to operate. They didn't fire anybody. It's one thing about the UFC. They would not fire people. So they stayed open, wouldn't fire anybody while they were going on for months, just paying people, trying to figure out how to put this together and make fights happen. They tried to do that one at the Indian place, Tai Chi Palace in Lemoore, California. They got real close to doing that, but then the fucking governor got a hold of the head of Disney and Eisner, and they called Dana White, and they told him to pull out. Pull out! Okay, so they back out of that, and then 2 weeks later, Florida's like, come on in. So then we do one in Florida with no audience.
I love it.
And then finally they're allowing us to do them at the Apex Center in Vegas. But I think right now it's a triage. Right now they're trying to stop the bleeding, and they're trying to patch back up the sport.
Right?
Like WME and the UFC. The UFC's operating with full costs for months.
Right.
Without any money coming in at all. So you have to think that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's like WME, I think, like paid $4 billion or something for them or something like that.
A little more than that. So they have this giant monthly nut they have to cover every month.
And people, I guess, don't realize is like an agency makes money off of the commission of their clients, and if their clients can't work because of Corona, the agency has no revenue coming in.
None. Zero.
There's no TV show. I guess there's some TV shows getting made, but like, still, they're not doing production on like films or anything like that. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Well, they're starting to do films next week.
They are. It's coming back. What was your thoughts
Until somebody gets sick.
And then you're liable. That's the tricky thing. It's like, they don't want, God forbid, somebody ends up one of these like NBA coaches who's old. God forbid, Greg Popovich, who's fucking 70.
Oh, yeah.
Gets Corona.
Death.
It is. And now you want to be the NBA commissioner that killed Greg Popovich?
Oh, my God. Or be a UFC promoter that a fighter gets sick, goes home and kills his mom who works with him. You know? Yeah. Maybe your mom helps cook for you. Your mom gets sick. Yeah. Maybe your mom's helping you in camp. Yeah. Your mom gets sick and dies from Corona because they had the fights.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that's going to happen. And I think particularly now when you're hearing these reports of the cases diminishing, the viral load that they're finding like in Italy is so small.
Yeah.
It's barely